What are we white folk with conservative backgrounds really afraid of? Is it black people, Democrats, Joe Biden, socialism? Not really. What we're really scared of is a government so big it can manipulate us with propaganda, take away our rights, and squelch any opposition with violence, right? Yet if we look around, that's exactly the system we have now. The dystopian tomorrow of yesterday's writers is our dystopian today. 1984 is long past. Tell me, in which dystopian story are armored police the protagonists? In which dystopian story are the ethnic minorities, grandchildren of slaves, the antagonists? In which dystopian story does the country with the highest incarceration rate in the world represent the great free country of idyllic fantasy? We're scared of losing our rights? Some of our citizens are still fighting to gain the rights we're scared of losing. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. You don't have the right to life if an officer can kill you without trial for a non-capital offense with little to no repercussions. You don't have liberty if you can't walk down the street without fear that the slightest misstep or misunderstanding could at minimum subject you to police harassment and at maximum falsely imprison you or kill you with little to no repercussions. You don't have the right to pursue happiness if every attempt to create the conditions that generate happiness are met with the most vitriolic opposition by the state demagogues and their sycophants, with little to no repercussions. People revolt now for the same reason they revolted in 1776 and in every other time and place, because the government charged with representing and protecting them is ignoring and hurting them. For a long time, I didn't see it because I wasn't directly affected by it. It's taken years of reading, studying, and talking with people who have perspectives different than the one I grew up with to see it. It's taken a prolonged practice of empathy. We are told that on the cross, Jesus suffered all the pains of humanity so he could become our perfect advocate. It was this same Jesus who said, "Take up your cross and follow me." Our cross isn't about our pain. Taking up our cross is our willingness to feel another's pain as if it were our own, so that we can become their advocates. This is empathy. This is the burden and glory of true love. This is the art of peacemaking. This is the essence of the spiritual path. To love, we must feel pain, but whose pain should we prioritize feeling first? Ye have heard it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you. And pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. For if ye love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even publicans the same? Who are we afraid of? Who are we angry at? Who is our enemy? Protesters? Black athletes? Socialists? Democrats? Black Lives Matter? Anti-fascists? What if instead of recoiling from their anger, we opened our hearts to their pain? What if instead of denouncing them, we listened to their experiences and then channeled our efforts toward finding and implementing mutually beneficial reforms? What if instead of dismissing their ideologies, we sought to understand them from their perspectives so that we could find common ground and mutual solutions? What if we held as literal truth the belief of Jesus that inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, ye have done it unto me? What if we saw the non-binary brown socialists destroying businesses and brandishing a whip in our very temple as God himself dressed in drag, and that our personal redemption were contingent upon our surrender to him in non-defensive love? It is easy to tell someone they need to repent because it requires nothing from us. Love, the only thing capable of inspiring true change, requires us to open our hearts to the deep suffering of others. It requires us to look past the anger and ask why the pain. Then we must be willing to feel that pain. If we cannot feel, we cannot heal. If we think our religious liberty will be lost with our church's tax-exempt status, then our religion was never capable of liberating us in the first place. Spiritual liberation is abandoning the shackles of fear and weapons of ego. It is the turning of our swords of enmity into pruning hooks of compassion, the alchemization of pain and anger into actions of self-sacrificing, unifying love. Are we scared of losing our religious liberty or our religious superiority? Following the injunction to love our enemies, Jesus said, "Be ye therefore perfect, as your Father in heaven is perfect." Of course, the word perfect here denotes whole. An eagle is not whole until it leverages the unified power of its right and left wings. Both sides are needed. We are not whole beings until we have made space in our hearts for our perceived enemies. We are not a whole society until all have the same rights, opportunities, and liberty. Our fight for our freedom must be focused on those with less liberty than us, for we are only as free as the most disadvantaged member of our society. You can't technically own a black person as a slave today. You can, however, perpetuate the conditions that cause them to be incriminated disproportionately in for-profit prisons where they can provide the cheapest of labor on behalf of for-profit businesses. You can make sure the experience is so crippling and degrading that it makes them incapable of reintegrating into society and more likely to return to incarceration. And that is what is happening today. The fight for liberation is the fight for abolition, and it is an ongoing process. There is still democracy. There is still freedom to be wrested. All dystopian stories from Golgotha to Panem have similar elements: an overreaching government, police brutality, violent suppression of dissidents. But they all have different endings. It is up to us to decide what ending we have. Do we seek to confront and heal our society's intergenerational racial trauma? Or do we recoil in fear and perpetuate the violence? We decide.